Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Amaliah, and in this good occasion, I'd like to say thank you very much to my beloved lecturer, Ibu Dr. Lailatul Musyarofah, M.Pd, for the advanced English subject. And today I'd like to present the Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Let's talk about this. The question, who is Piaget? Who is he? His complete name is Jean Piaget. Here are the photographs. Piaget is an interesting character in psychology. His theory of learning differs from many others in some important ways. His complete name was Jean Piaget. He comes from Switzerland. So he was famous as a Swiss psychologist and genetic epidemiologist. He's most famous known for his theory of cognitive development that looked at how the children develop intellectually throughout the course of childhood. Here are the first. He focuses exclusively on children. He has a lot of research, and he often observes his own children. And then here, the second, he talks about development. As I said before, the theory of cognitive development. Children were often thought as simply as mini adults. That is the previous theory. But when the Piaget announced his theory that the children has the development of cognitive process, so instead Piaget suggested that the way children think is fundamentally different from the way that adults think. And then the third, it is a stage theory, not a linear progression theory. It means that Piaget's theory had a tremendous influence on the emergence of a developmental psychology. And it has a very great contribution, especially to the field of education. He is also credited as a pioneer of the constructivist theory, which suggests that people actively construct their knowledge of the world based on the interaction between their ideas and their experiences. Now we talk about the basic ideas. The basic ideas of Jean Piaget. Let's take a look at this. The first, schemas. The schemas are the building blocks of knowledge. Because Piaget was ranked as the second most influential psychologist of the 20th century, that is thanks to his theory of schemas. And then number two, the adaptation processes. This allowed the transition from one stage to another. He called this equilibrium, assimilation, and accumulation. Actually, Jean Piaget was born in Switzerland, and then by the age of 11, he had already started his career as a researcher by writing a short paper on albinosperm. That is why he has a lot of research. And then the third and the most famous here is the stages of cognitive development theory. He has 4 stages of cognitive development. The first is sensorimotor. The second is pre-operational. The third is concrete operational. And the fourth is formal operational. Now we are going to talk about the Piaget's stages of cognitive development. There are 4 stages. The first stage is the sensorimotor stage, runs from 0 from the birth to 2 years. So from 0 years old to 2 years old, and the child spends their time learning basic schemas and object permanence. The idea that something still exists when you can't see it. Schemas that it means that the children sort the knowledge they acquire through their experiences and interaction into grouping known as schemas, basic schemas. And then the second, pre-operational stage, runs from 2 years old to 7 years old. The child develops more schemas and the ability to think. Symbolically, the idea that one thing can stand for another. So one word has the symbol. Words for examples or objects. At this point, children still struggle with theory of mind, M.Pd, and can't really get their head around the viewpoints of others. The second stage of development lasts from the ages of 2 to 7 and is characterized by the development of language and the emergence of symbolic play. Now we go on with the third stage of cognitive development. The third is the concrete operational stage, runs from 7 years old to 11 years old. This is the stage when children start to work things out in their head rather than physically in the real world. Start to work things out in their head rather than physically in the real world. They also develop the ability to conserve or understand that something stays the same quantity even if it looks different. Here is the stage of the concrete operational. At this point, logical thought emerges. Logic. But children still struggle with abstract and theoretical thinking in this stage. Now we go on with the fourth stage of cognitive development. That is the formal operational stage. Runs from 11 years old into adulthood. And this is where abstract truth develops. And thus logic and cool stuff like hypothesis testing. In this stage, in the formal operation stage, children become much more adept at abstract thought and deductive reasoning. Hypothesis, and then abstract thought, and also deductive reasoning. That is the contribution to psychology. Piaget provided support for the idea that children think differently than adults. That is the conclusion, and his research identified several important milestones in the mental development of children. That's all our presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi